this the reading room?
Yes, I'm Saad Manzoor.
And I'm Travis Howard.
This is Reading Room Talk. Thank you for pressing play. Welcome.
Oh yeah, welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah, we've been stalking and just looking all around the hospital for urologists. We finally got one.
The urologist.
Oh yes. Hey, urology is. That's the whole point. You don't even know what it is. So we got Dr. Hesham Mostafa here with us today. How are you, man? How's it going?
Good, man. Good. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time.
Oh yeah.
We finished up the UC together. This is the man right here.
That's right. The Ohio heavy right now.
Super Ohio heavy. That's right. You know, it's funny. Ohio is always in the news somehow. It's either Ohio or Florida, man.
That's right.
That's right. That's exactly right. So tell us. So take us back to med school. I know you are University of Cincinnati grads. You got to take us back, man. Tell us, what was your toughest class or rotation in med school?
Oh man. Okay. So the first couple years, man, I don't know. I feel like all throughout my education, medical statistics, it's just like anything stats, bio stats, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we actually had that class, Travis, in med school.
We did. It was kind of embedded in things, right?
Was it? Okay.
We had to like break down papers and criticize the papers and stats and all that. Yeah, I feel you, man. It was it was different.
Yeah.
All those different types of T squared, Z squared,
No.
Yeah. Whatever so that was the bane of my existence. You know, actually it came to the point where whenever those questions came on the exam, I just hit next because I just I just chucked it up as a loss. I was like, it's I'm just gonna go on and spend the time on questions that I actually could possibly get right, you know?
I like it. That's actually a great strategy too. Right? Great strategy. Take notes.
Yep.
Take notes.
So yeah, man. And the other one was I got a couple. It can't just be one, right? Because the first couple of years were rough.
Yeah.
Histology, man, that was a little bit of a trip, to be honest with you. I didn't know what I was looking at half the time, to be honest with you. So, but I would say those two. Yeah.
Oh, those are two very painful classes for sure. And like, tell us, how good were you with the microscope?
Oh man, I think I always had do you remember Chad Myeroff, Travis?
I sure do. Yeah, orthopedic surgeon in like Minnesota right now. Yep.
So we had this one classmate. His name is Chad, and he was shout out to Chad, but he obviously we sat near each other because his last name was Myeroff, mine is Mostafa, right? So I leaned on him in a lot of things, him and a couple other guys in our class, and so I would always be like, yo, Chad, can you come help me with this? Like, I know I annoyed him, but he would always come over. He was so cool and nice, man. He just come over and do that little whatever, the little because it was like 4x or 10x, 100x. I didn't know what I was trying to do, so he was he was gracious.
That's just trying to survive in advance, right there.
That's right.
Sure. And it takes a village. It always takes a village. You got to need some help at some point. So, shout out to Chad for helping you out, man. That's awesome, man.
Chad, if we're doing the shout outs, I'll let you, just like to your point, it takes a village. I was telling somebody the other day, like, there was a few guys, Mo Gupta, Rob Shu, like there's a few guys, Rob Shu, Mo Gupta, Sekar, those guys, man, they helped me out a lot. Honestly, if it wasn't for those 4 or 5 guys right there, I'd probably be where I am today as far as like studying for the step 1, step 2. Those guys motivated me a lot, so it really does take a village. It takes a group of guys to kind of elevate you and push you forward. I'm sure, Travis, you can speak to, to a similar degree when it comes to like the support of people around you, your classmates,
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
Y'all grinded, man. Y'all went hard. So I know. I remember like I'd be leaving the library and seeing the crew still there. Like I don't know how they do it, but I got to get out of here.
That's right. That's so funny.
It inspires you to get back. Yeah, it inspires you to get back and study. And so it's so true, man. You need that group. You need that core group of support around you. And so, and we had those. We had those. Cincinnati fostered that for sure.
100%. I agree.
Oh, it's so good, so good. So tell us, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Where's your family from?
So I did a lot of hopping and skipping around, but I was born in Cleveland. Yeah, born in Cleveland, and then we spent some time there probably until I was like 5 or 6 years old, and then me and my family, we moved to Egypt for about 3 to 4 years.
Nice.
So I lived in Egypt for about 3 to 4 years, and then came back to Cleveland. Spent a few years there, and then moved to Toledo. Finished high school, went to Columbus for Ohio State for undergrad, and then Cincinnati for med school, and then back up to Toledo for residency, and I'm still here.
Oh, that's crazy. Awesome.
Did the whole Ohio tour. Yeah.
You did the whole Ohio tour, a little bit of Egypt in between. That's awesome.
A little bit of Egypt in between.
That's super cool.
What took the family to Egypt?
So my dad was doing he was doing his master's in engineering, his PhD. So he had it all started there, like American University of Cairo, and then he had like a scholarship to Case.
Nice.
Yeah, so he had he's bouncing back and forth doing his master's, and then he just kind of he finished his PhD at Case Western. So it was basically my dad's education, and then that's really it. Honestly, that's what kind of. And then after that, every move after that was either driven by his work or his employment, and then for me it was whether it's college or med school or what have you.
Let me ask you this. So they say that when you're in Egypt, the professor is kind of like the top notch, upper echelon of anything you can be doing. Would you agree with that statement or not?
I was, I've heard that too. So I was too young to really kind of appreciate that, firsthand experience. But that's what I hear from what my dad had told me. That's kind of what it is. Is that what you heard?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like that's like a real thing because I've heard from different people, and obviously, like, people come from, Egypt to study here. They usually go to big school, big name, and when they come back, they're like superstars back in like Cairo and Egypt. So shout out to your dad for making that happen. That's awesome.
Yeah, when they go back, it's like they're like superstars. It's like, but it's kind of like Dwight Howard going to Taiwan to play basketball. You know what I mean? It's kind of like. You really are a big fish in a little pond, but it's, nonetheless you're a big fish. So for sure, I think there's truth to that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So did you feel like there was a pressure for you to like go into like engineering or medicine, or like how did you kind of get interested in that whole thing?
That's a great question. So I honestly no, my dad had actually told me, he's like, you do whatever you want, just don't do engineering, except engineering.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Why did he say that?
I still don't know to this day. I have no idea. I think I was too young to poke and prod and get get his thought process. But he was like, just do whatever you want, just don't do engineering.
Wow, very progressive.
Right. he was beyond his years. But so I took that. I was like, all right, well, we can cross that off the list. And so I was more science inclined. I was kind of, I leaned science more, chemistry, biology, whatever. So initially I wanted to do pharmacy, but to be honest, guys, I didn't really have a true understanding of what anything was. I was kind of a sports addict in high school. All I wanted to do is just, whether it's football, basketball, played soccer. all I was thinking was I was in the gym, I was working out, like that's all I wanted to do, right? So school was kind of an afterthought. I
Yeah.
was kind of a late bloomer when it comes to academics, like a very
Mhm.
late bloomer. And so I just kind of went where how the wind blew me. I was like, you know what? I have a friend who's doing pharmacy. Let's just do this thing, right? So I went to Ohio State
Mhm.
thinking I was going to do pharmacy. I enrolled in pre-pharmacy program, and then all my roommates and who are like my close friends now, all of them were doing med school, like pre-med. I was
Oh,
like,
interesting.
all of them, man. And I was like, man, what's going on? Like, something must be special about this med school thing, right?
Yeah.
So I ditched the pharmacy idea, and I was like, all right, let's just go ahead and take this MCAT and see what happens, right?
Oh, wow.
So I I studied, I was like, man, what am I getting myself into? But I studied, I applied,
Mhm.
and I got into Cincy. I was like, all right, I guess we're going to med school.
That's
You know?
crazy. Wow. That's
So I
awesome.
didn't really have a strong, like nobody, I had no physicians in my family. I
Mhm.
didn't grow up with any doctors or anything. My mom didn't, just kind of left it up to me. My dad, he only had one condition, which was not engineering. Um, so that's it, man. Honestly, I owe it to my roommates. I guess you can say I fall easily to peer pressure. I don't know, but I just,
The
you know,
good
I
peer
just,
pressure.
huh?
The good peer pressure, though, not the bad.
Good. Yeah, it's great. I was impressionable. I was impressionable enough to take that test and move forward with it. And here I am.
Oh, that's
When
really
you,
cool.
yeah, when you say you're a late bloomer, what do you mean exactly? Because some of our listeners might say, "Oh, everyone says they're a late bloomer," but are they really?
Mm.
Right. And that, so it's funny you say that. I was talking to my wife the other day because I really, like, I was not a smart kid in high school. Like, I was not a smart kid in middle school. I was not a smart kid in elementary school. I just worked my butt off, right? And I was good enough, right? I was good enough to get a good enough grade, to get a good enough scholarship to go to Ohio State. And even when I was at Ohio State and studying for the MCAT and stuff, all my roommates were smarter than me, which it didn't bother me, right? Because like I didn't have like looking back, I didn't feel like some type of way that my peers and my close friends were high achievers. But
Mm.
they kind of motivated me to work harder so I can keep up, you know.
Mhm,
And
That's
then
awesome.
in med school, um, like even then, like all those guys that I mentioned, Travis,
mhm.
like I knew, even to this day, those guys are like they're smarter than me. They just kind of pick up on things better. And even Mo was always a genius. Like he's a humble guy, right? Like I
Mm.
know him since childhood. He would like knock out all these ACT and SAT. Like Mo is a super smart guy. Like don't let him fool you.
No, I
He,
knew it. He
yeah,
made it look easy.
he's a
Shout out,
genius,
Mo.
man. Yeah, he makes it look easy. He really does. So like I've always been surrounded by guys who were like just smarter than me, right? I just gravitated to be in their company, right? So and I just kind of kept at it. I kept at it. I just kept working hard, kept working hard. For whatever reason, man, I think it was like late second year in med school or even like early third year, some just clicked, like a light bulb just went on. And
Mm.
then I found myself just processing like the material so much easy. Everything just started coming easy to me.
Uh-huh.
Awesome.
And like, just the material would stick, right? For whatever reason, like
Mhm.
it much easier than it did in college or in high school. Like I just had to just kind of keep at it and then surround myself with good company or whatever. And then all of a sudden I just felt like it really did feel like a light bulb just went on. And I just things just kind of matured from there, and there's just kind of a snowball effect, and even into residency. So residency also was
Mhm.
another. I had another aha moment in residency where I had my insecurities about going into a surgical specialty. I even told my dad, before he passed away, I was like, you know, I don't even know, like, I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of scared going in and doing surgery on somebody, you know?
Mm.
And he was like, don't worry about it. Just they'll train you. He was a man of a few words, right? So he would just kind of be like, don't worry about it. You'll be all right. You know, just put the work in, you'll be fine. But even then I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this.
Yeah.
And my second year in residency, again, it just some clicked, a light bulb went on. And then my attending would looked at me and he was like, hey man, I think there might be something there, and I don't think you should ignore it. I think you should really capitalize on this you know, innate ability that you might have. And
Mm.
I didn't even see, like, you know, it was someone else that kind of pointed it out to me. It
Mm.
was like, hey, you know, there might be something there. You should really you know, like zone in and trying to, you know, get the best out of your abilities. So, and
Yeah.
then like my confidence, once I heard that, my confidence just shot up, you know?
Oh, that's all.
So that's what I hope that answered that question. I know it was a long-winded answer.
No,
No,
no, it's
great
good.
answer.
I'm like, I want to hone in on what's clicking for you. You know, like, I think maybe was it just time and just feeling more comfortable, or what do you? Probably that definitely has an effect. But you know, it sounds like at each step you like hit a certain level. You're like, you just owned it, right? Just owned
Yeah.
it. You just-
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but also it seems like you were learning the whole time. You never stopped learning. You know, you just kept on learning, you kept on working, you kept on, you know, being around peers who you felt like maybe, you know, a little bit more advanced than you. But like once you got to that, you know, that 10,000 hours, everything just clicked. Like on
Absolutely.
There you
you
I
go.
know,
I think you're right. I think you're right,
yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
No, that's
Um
awesome. And, I was gonna say, so like, I mean, did you kind of know you wanted to do urology when you were in vet school, or like how did that whole thing? 'Cause, I mean, that's a competitive, you know, just it's competitive. I mean, people will be like, urology, they're like, oh, we already know what's going on here. So how did
Yeah.
that work out for you? How'd you make that decision?
yes. So it's kind of a similar theme, man. So I kind of had no idea what I wanted to do. You know, I was just trying to get, you know, stay above waters. And
Mhm.
when it came time to pick, I was all over the place. I was you know, I did ortho for a little bit, you know, or like not, you know, during rotation, I was like, let me try this out. And then let me like in, you know, let me try out ER. Let me try out what was I knew I didn't want to do neurosurgery because that was just too hardcore. And
Mm.
then those guys work hard, man, neurosurgeons. Um,
Shout out.
cardiology, ophthalmology, ENT. I think I literally gave everything a chance. And
Nice.
then one of my friends, who was my college roommate, who was my co-resident in residency, and now is my work partner.
Oh,
His
that's
name
awesome.
his name is Omar Khan. Um,
Mm.
he's
Shout
one
out.
of my shout out to Omar Khan. He didn't go to UC, but he's an A1 from day one. And
Okay.
That's awesome.
I you know, I met him because we played high school basketball against each other. That's how we met.
Oh, that's
Um, and so and but anyway, so he kind of was in my ear. He was always chirping like, "Hey man, you should check out urology." And I'm like, "Nah, man, come on, that's nasty. Like I would never do that." You know? Like
yes. Yes.
I was like, "Are you serious?" So he's like, "Dude, trust me. It's a good field. It's a surgical field. You can do, you know, outpatient, you know, care, patient care. You can do surgical, whatever, whatever." I was like, "Nah, man, I can't do that. Like, I can't get myself to even think about doing that." He's like,
Mm.
just at least do a rotation, right?" So before we did this rotation, we had this thing, Travis. I don't know if you remember, but they made all of us go and do a rectal, a DRE
Oh yeah.
on a stand
Oh
Oh
yeah.
man.
Never
on a
forget
standardized patient,
you.
on a standardized patient. Dude, that memory's imprinted in my brain, right? So I go in and there's like all of our classmates were lined up into, you know, to go into this room, and there's a preceptor teaching us how to do a proper genital urinary exam, right? So I go in there as a you know, a third year medical student, and I do this exam. And I come out of there, I'm like, there is no way I'm doing this, man. There is no way I'm doing this for the rest of my life. And I call Omar up. I'm like, bro, there's no way I'm doing this. I don't know what you're thinking, right?
Oh, it's so funny.
So he was like, no, you're crazy, man. You'll come back around, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give all these other specialties a chance. I went around, I did my electives, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Let me just do a 2-week urology elective, right? So I did it, and I gotta say, maybe I'm biased, but those were the coolest set of residents that I work with in my whole third year, man. They were so chill, so funny, so laid back. I was like, these dudes are cool, man. Like I can do this. I can hang with these guys all day long, you know?
Yeah.
So that was the first that was the first bait. Like that I knew that wasn't obviously what was going to keep me into a field, right? But that was the first thing that piqued my interest was the personality of the guys.
It's a great point. Great point.
So then they started doing all this, like, you know, laser with the stones and robotic surgery and all this like cool technology. And I was like, oh shoot, this kind of reminds me of, like, you know, video games and Halo and whatever, right?
That's awesome.
And then it just kind of one thing led to another, but and I just kind of landed on urology because of the mix of, you know, the nature of the cases and the surgeries and the kind of the overall personality of the you know, urologists. I don't know what your guys' experience is when you're dealing with other specialties. What your guys' impression is of urologists?
Oh man, you know, like we kind of talked about earlier, lots of jokes. You know, just kind of like, you know, they get the job done. There's a certain edge to them as well. As an interventional radiologist, I'm interacting with urologists all the time, as you can, you know, as you know.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, they are usually relatable. You know, they're just like, you know, I can see the connection. You know, you being in the sports and being a guy's guy and being in urology, it all just kind of fits, you know?
Yeah. The people are nice. It'll probably be fine. So
yeah, that's a good
you
point.
already had Omar, and then you met the urology residents. I mean, like, you didn't have any, like, it didn't sound like you had any, like, negative, you know, interaction, which is awesome. The only negative, you know, interaction was like the DRE.
But hey, man, but now we got MRIs, so thank God for MRIs, prostate MRIs, you know.
Yeah.
So true.
So this is also a funny story. So I I applied very broadly, and you know, Cincinnati had, you know, made, you know, its promises or what have you. I went to other schools, they made their promises, and then simultaneously Omar was also applying, right? So the next his next recruitment pitch was, why don't you come to my program, Toledo, right? I was like, nah, man, I already lived in Toledo. I'm trying to go out, you know, and explore the rest of America. I'm good, right? Like, you know, I'll go interview, but I'm not gonna really rank it super high, right? So and he was dead set on Toledo. Like, this Omar, that's where he grew up, that's where he went to med school. He was already like in cahoots with all the attendings, and he was good, and he had his place set, right?
Right.
So Noah, actually, Travis, as you know, his Val is from Toledo.
Yeah, exactly.
And so he had Toledo really high up there as well, because I think he wanted to go back for Val. So I interviewed as well, but I didn't really, you know, invest so much into the whole Toledo thing. And then so I kind of ranked it in the middle of my list, whereas Omar had ranked it number one. Like, it's to the point where Omar didn't even show up for other interviews. That's how confident he was, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? That was super brave. I told him, I was like, maybe that wasn't the wisest move, but anyways, it was Omar at the number one spot, and then it was Noah as the number two spot. So I think Noah was, like, you know, set to match in Toledo. it was either that or Cincinnati. I think Noah ended up going to Cincinnati, but however it all went down, and I ended up matching in Toledo, with Omar, like, my best friend,
Wow.
and it's like two spots, two spots per class.
Oh,
Whoa.
So,
Awesome.
huh?
it
That's
worked out.
crazy. Wow.
That's
Crazy, man. So like I remember when it was match day, everybody was like, when it happened, and everybody kind of knew, like, oh, you matched with Omar, your boy from Toledo. And everybody was like, how the hell did you guys pull that off? Like,
Mm.
what are the odds of matching with your childhood friend, at a
Omar's
residency?
by like 100%.
So yeah, man, that's how it happened. I
That's
thought I
awesome.
was I thought I was, Houston bound, Cincinnati bound, Michigan bound, but nope, came back to the 419, man.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, and then like you're there with your buddy, and like it makes residency a little bit easier.
It made it a lot easier, man. I'm not gonna lie, like, because that was actually, right when I started residency is when my father passed away.
Mm.
And like I think it was literally, it was 2 days. My dad passed away 2 days before orientation for residency. So that
Wow.
was that was that was that was rough. Like that was a hard time in my life,
Yeah.
and
It
honestly,
works
everything
out
happens
though.
for a
Imagine
reason.
imagine being in like Houston or someplace like super
Correct.
far. That would have been super crazy. So sometimes it just works out. Don't know
Yeah,
how it
man,
works out. Sometimes it just works out. So
for sure.
I'm sorry for your loss, brother. During such a difficult time.
No,
yeah.
thanks, man. I appreciate that, guys. Hey, but my point was, like you said, Saad, everything happens for a reason. You sitting there scratching your head. Why did you match in residency in Toledo with your boy? And then a few months later, that happens. And then you're like, aha, that's why. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. That's
So,
exactly right. That's cool.
So urology is competitive. It's tough to get into. What do you think set you apart, on the application trail? And it sounds like you had many options.
yeah, that's a great question. So I think I would say, I'm trying to think back here. I gotta pull back the memory bank. I think I would. I think
Well,
I
it's
would
wild.
say.
I Google you and it says this guy has 12 years of experience, and I'm like, what?
So funny. We were
you,
just playing basketball. What happened?
man, it's crazy how time flies. It's like to be talking to you with this, even 10 years, even 5 years of
I
experience
know,
in this
man.
specialty. It's like it's
Makes me feel. It makes me feel old, bro. To be
yeah,
honest
me
with
too. I'm like, what?
Oh,
How can he? I know.
I know, right?
that's so funny.
So, I mean, honestly, Travis, I think I would say, you gotta. I think if you go on the interview trail, or if you're doing like a way rotation or whatever, I think what set me apart was probably the relationship I cultivated with the residents of that program. Because
Mm.
I felt like it wasn't, my grades were, right there on par with it's competitive, like you said, man. So honestly, like, unless, like, for me, I knew I wasn't going to get the highest, step one score. It was competitive. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't going to be the highest. I didn't like, I didn't blow people out of the water with my academic accolades, right?
But you met the threshold.
I met the
That's
threshold for sure. I worked my butt off, and I was, I was at these interviews, and that's why, so it speaks for that for sure. But if you ask me the intangible that would set me apart beyond those academic achievements, I would say the relationship you cultivate if you do a way rotation. I think it's the relationships you cultivate with those residents, because those residents will, I know for a fact, now having gone through residency and stuff and being an attending, those residents will go to that program, director and the program coordinator, and then ultimately the chairman, and they will talk about you. They will talk for you. They will They will vouch for you.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think was a valuable and tangible. And then if you don't have the opportunity to win, kind of have a relationship with the residents on a weight rotation, just in the interview process, really invest into those current residents, into the chief, make friends with that, with that coordinator. There's always a sweet, coordinator that kind of takes care of all these matters. That's the person you should cultivate a relationship with. If you are well liked by the staff and the residents, they will go out and speak about you in a positive way.
That's so
Oh
true.
man, that's so true. You cannot highlight that point more. The program coordinator is the one.
Right.
That's the one.
In your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I told the story before where I think I applied to GW for residency, and then I got waitlisted, and I literally just called, just cold called, because I was in the area. I was in DC. I'm like, hey, can you guys? Is there any chance that I can get an interview if someone else cancels? And the lady's like, some generic answer. She's like, bye. And I'm like, all right, bye. And then literally 5 minutes later, she calls me back. She's like, hey, I know you're a brother. Can you come in on Tuesday?
Oh, there you go.
Boom. And that's how I got my spot. So
that's wild. That's crazy, man.
I mean, it's literally just these random little things, So, like you said, cultivating those relationships with the residents, because they'll literally go through the rank list during one of the noon hour conferences and be like, hey, who do you guys like? You like this person, like this person. We interviewed this person, and they'll just move them up and down. So the program coordinator is major, program director obviously, and then the current residents, super. So
I want to say it's important to be genuine too. Don't go in
oh
there.
yes,
Thirsty.
they can tell.
Don't go in there kiss and tell. Be a real, genuine, kind person as best you can.
Oh
yeah,
man.
dude. People can easily tell when you're trying too hard.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I know both you guys are genuine guys. I mean, there's and you can kind of spot it when it's right there in front of you, and it's actually very easy to spot. So I can't speak to that point more, Travis. That's a good point for sure.
In radiology, call that the janitor sign. Janitor knows you're fake.
That's hilarious. You guys got all these signs, man. It's funny.
Oh man, yeah, it's true, man. But let me ask you: so, did you end up doing a fellowship afterwards? Or you just decided to go into a practice when you finished residency?
So ours was a 6-year residency. It was one of the few.
Nice.
Yeah, it was one of the few 6-year residencies remaining. So the idea of doing an extra year or two already off the bat was a not really a desirable one. We did the reason why we also did 6 years is because we had a transplant program.
Oh man, that's crazy. Okay.
A kidney transplant program. So our surgical volume was really high, and then once I got into the flow of things, guys, I saw that the robotic surgery was kind of the next wave.
Yes.
And then once I got into mid and upper classmen of my residency, I had a couple of attendings who kind of took me under their wing. One in particular, Dr. Mirza Beg, who is now my partner. Shout out to Mirza. And man, he took me under his wing, and honestly, he and that's where my training just took off, right? And he is considered by a lot of people in Ohio to be one of, if not the best, robotic surgeon for urology. So I got lucky. It's all from the grace of God. I was fortunate enough to be his student, and because of that, I had so much confidence by the end of my 6th year that I decided to not do a fellowship, and I was also.
That sounds like, you were doing transplant, you're doing robotics, all during residency. Yeah, you definitely don't need a fellowship.
Yeah. I mean, so honestly, I was fortunate. I was blessed. I was lucky. I was also blessed and fortunate to have those guys, come offer me a job and be a partner. So And that's why I'm still here in Toledo, man. People wonder why I'm still here in Toledo, but that's why,
Easy. People, the people, for
the
sure.
people. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
you enjoy it. That's awesome.
That's great, man. Tell us, what would you tell someone who's like struggling in like, med school and undergrad, trying to make it happen for themselves? What would you tell them to, help them make it through?
So I think the bare minimum variable or ingredient in the whole equation is hard work. I mean, you gotta if you're not working hard, you're not setting yourself up for success, for good fortune. What do they say? There's that saying that says luck favors. I think luck favors hard work or something like that, right? Like
The
people
prepared.
say,
Yep.
right?
Yep, makes
Exactly.
sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you can get lucky, but luck is bound to be on your side if you are putting in the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of us, are gonna at some point lean on somebody else. Somebody else is gonna help us. We're all gonna catch a break. We're all gonna find some, good fortune somewhere along the way. But if you don't I know it's a generic answer, but I really kind of believe it, in that if you don't put in that work, if that's not the baseline ingredient in your whole mix, then you're not setting yourself up for success, for good fortune, for a break along the road. And you're gonna have your ups and downs, for sure. You're gonna have your ups and downs, whether it's academically or personally, but you just gotta persevere and just keep going. And I know that's a very bird's eye view, 50,000 feet, kind of advice. But I think if I had looked back at my journey, that was probably the fundamental key thing, was just whatever happens, just put your head down and keep going. At some point, you're gonna come out at the other end.
That's right. It'll let up. You're gonna
Awesome.
see the light at some point.
At some point, you're gonna catch a break somewhere, man. And you never know where God puts people in your path to just give you that break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure.
But God is not going to change your situation if you're not working hard to change it yourself.
I tell people all the time, help God help you.
Yes.
Like, you can't just, and my mom would always tell me, you can have all the faith you want in the world, but without any work, it's not going to go anywhere,
Yeah.
So
that's so true.
you just, that's,
your story kind of exemplifies exactly what you were saying, though, like with the context of like you've just been working hard, you've been trying to surround yourself with the positive people, and then eventually it comes together when the right opportunity or person comes along. So I think that it actually makes complete sense, and I think that's the thing we can't emphasize more than anything, is like you have to do the hard work part. Like there's nothing else happening until you do the hard work part.
Correct. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So I know Travis has a question for you in regards to that too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you've answered it in a way, because I'll always ask, what was the most difficult thing you faced? And we sort of talked before we started recording. I know it can't be easy in Northeast or Northwest Ohio practicing urology. You know, tell me some of the challenges you face, and then how do you work through them on a day to day?
Yeah, man. You're spot on. It happens. It happens from a time to time. So my practice is actually built where about 20% of my practice is Metro Toledo. So I'm in kind of in the middle of the city. I know that sounds funny calling Toledo like a major city, but
It is.
it's a metro city. So there's diversity. There is all walks of life. It won't surprise people from someone like me to walk through and introduce myself as a physician. However,
Okay.
I would say about 70 to 80% of my practice is out in the boonies.
Okay.
So I go out 45 minutes to an hour on some weeks, and I drive out to these boonies, and I do get that. I mean, how many times a month or a week, I'll walk in and I'll have a patient be like, oh, you speak pretty good English for a last name of Mustafa, and or like, yeah, or like, oh, you're the doctor, or things like that. So
Mm,
you gotta just kind of know your environment. You gotta know that, in these areas, these people are some people are just not exposed. You can't blame people for their what they've been exposed to for however many years, right? So like,
yeah. And what they've been taught. Exactly.
and then what they've been taught, right? And so I can't blame that patient for saying that to me, because that's just what they've been exposed to. They're a product of their environment. So what I'm here to do is to debunk that, right? So
Mm,
I kind of I take it upon myself to kind of just change their perspective, like for them to have an aha moment, or what, this doctor was pretty cool, and he was colored, and his name was this, and his family's from this place or whatever. So honestly, my tactic is I just make them laugh. I try to make. I mean, it's easy in urology, right? But
yeah.
I I try to I try to make them laugh, and I can't take credit for this, but my wife always says, people are always nicer to you if you just smile. If you walk around with a smile, right?
Mm,
People are automatically like you can't be mean to somebody who's always smiling, right? So
mm,
I think that little bit of advice. I don't even think she intentionally meant it as an advice, but she said it one day, and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? That's true. Like, if I saw somebody smiling all the time, I'm not gonna hate the guy. So that's something that I have found to help me. Is just to be cordial, super nice, super kind
mm,
of warm,
Yeah.
genuine, just to help, maybe, even if it's a little bit, change that perspective that they grew up um learning, you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
And now they go around, they say, yo, Dr. Mufasa, the Lion King, my doctor, he's amazing, this and that. So like, it's I kind of take it on as a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, every once in a while, it's not cool to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all human, right? We all have a threshold, but
For
I
sure.
I can't blame them too much, especially these isolated communities that are out in the boonies, and that's honestly most of America, man. Most of America is isolated and secluded.
You know,
Oh man, that's so true.
silos. And big ups to you, because to do what you do, to be a physician, to be a urologist, is challenging alone. So to have those tactics to disarm people and be able to get to the nuts and bolts of really helping them, it's a challenge that I think anyone that is underrepresented
Hmm.
will face. And so, big ups to you and all those, before us and after us that continue to do that hard work. So, man, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of being class of 2011 UCA.
2011, 2011, man.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I was gonna
No.
say, I feel like in the end, though, these people, you're driving out an hour and a half, you said, to check these people out, and they need urologic services, so they
Yeah.
need you.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And honestly, like, to your point, Travis, I mean, we all do this, to a degree, Saad, Mo, Ron, whoever. I saw you guys had Tia on the
Yeah.
Adjua. All these people, we all do this, and collectively, I think collectively, as we go out there and deliver good patient care, and kind of disarm, like you said, just little by little, we change people's views and perspectives on lives, and
Hmm.
it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, that's okay. So
That's
that's
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you making the time, man. This was awesome, man. We learned a lot, man. You
Yes,
just
we
Ohio
did.
major out here. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, stay low and keep firing.
Please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or wherever you get your pods.
You just sound so polished now, bro. I'm like, this guy is like, I don't know. Not that you didn't sound polished before, but now I'm like, damn, you sound grown.
I'm old, man. I'm getting older. That's how you know.